Are you here? Well, considering that your ears perked up and you squinted, I like our chances. You are here. Thanks for tuning in to the Paul Leslie Hour, featuring interviews with the greatest writers and artists of our time. We're very pleased to welcome today Prince Edward Island singer-songwriter Lennie Gallant on the show for his second interview. Lennie Gallant makes astonishing records that display not only his phenomenal songwriting, but his stunning voice. According to The Guardian, Gallant truly is a master tunesmith. His lyrics and the melody lines that flow through them are beautifully interwoven and go straight for the heart almost every time. The late Jimmy Buffett called Lennie Gallant one of my favorite Canadian songwriters. Speaking of Jimmy Buffett, Lennie Gallant contributed writing on 2 songs to the final posthumous Jimmy Buffett album and was also featured on the track Portugal or PEI. Lennie sings in English and French and is also in the duo Sirène et Matelot, or Siren and Sailor, with Patricia Richard. Now, before we get rolling, I want to remind you to please subscribe to Paul Leslie's YouTube channel. You will be very glad you did. And with that, I think we're all ready to hear from Lennie Gallant himself.
Hey, Lennie Gallant.
How are you, man?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Oh, pretty good.
And you're joining us from Prince Edward Island?
I am on the North Shore of PEI.
Very nice. I have yet to be there, but I can dream. Well, Lennie, thank you so much for speaking with me once more.
No problem, man. Thanks for the interest.
Absolutely. I don't even know if you remember, my feelings would not be hurt, but we did an interview years ago by phone, but it's nice to see you in living color.
Well, nice to see you too.
So a lot's been going on lately. You've got, of course, your solo songwriting and recording going on, but then there's also this duo, which I want to point all the viewers and listeners to, and you'll have to forgive me, but I think it's Sirène Matelot?
Sirène et Matelot.
Sirène et Matelot.
Which means the siren and the sailor.
The Siren and the Sailor. Now, where did you come upon that particular name for this duo?
Well, it's actually the very first song that we wrote together in French. And as you know, my career is mostly in English. I've got, I don't know, 11 or 12 albums out in English. But then my heritage is Acadian. And Acadians are from the first settlers in European settlers in North America and in our part of the world, and of course all the Cajuns of Louisiana are our cousins. After the deportation of the Acadians from our part of the world, a lot of them ended up down in Louisiana, and if you really want to know where the name Cajun came from, in various parts of the east coast of Canada, when you say Acadian in French, you'll say "Moi, je suis Acadien." It means I'm an Acadian, Acadian, so you can see where the word Cajun comes from. And anyway, that's part of my heritage. And my partner as well, Patricia, she's even more so in that she grew up speaking French. For me, I picked it up later in life, my French, even though it's part of my heritage. And so having spent a lot of time in Acadian communities, I wanted to pursue that part of my life as well. And so I started recording a few albums in the French language. And Patricia and I have this duo, Sirène et Matelot. A siren, as in mythology, as you possibly know, is a siren is thought to be this mythical creature that had such a beautiful voice it would lure hapless sailors onto the rocks with their boats, where they would smash up their boats and she would plunder them, I suppose, and take advantage of them. And so my partner Patricia thought that was the perfect name for our duo. Since I've spent some time on the ocean, I've helped a friend of mine sail his schooner from Nova Scotia to Bermuda to the Caribbean a couple of times, down to St. Bart's actually in the Caribbean a couple of times. So we thought the name Sirène et Matelot would be appropriate for our French duo.
It's a cool name and a very interesting idea. Now, I got the chance to watch. There's an entire concert of Serena Matalo on YouTube. It's really beautiful music. I don't understand too much French, but it doesn't mean I can't enjoy the beauty of the music and the instrumentation and all of that. I'm hoping you can tell us about one of the songs that you all recorded. Some of our viewers may recognize it, even though it's in French instead of English. There's a song on your recent release of the song Johnny Holiday.
Yeah, and that song, as you know, has a Jimmy Buffett credit on it, and the reason being that Jimmy had contacted me about a year ago and asked me to write on a song with him called PEI or Portugal, which we did and is on the album, along with great contribution, of course, from Will Kimbrough and Matt McAnally on that one as well. And but after, he also asked me to help write a song about his friend Johnny Hallyday. Johnny Hallyday, he was a massive rock star in France. He patterned himself a little bit after Elvis Presley and the rockabilly scene. As you know, Elvis never really left the States, so it left the market wide open. And he stepped in and he became a huge star in France and sort of developed a sound of his own, became a big movie star as well. Millions and millions of followers. In fact, when he died, 1 million people showed up at his funeral.
Hmm.
And But not many people in the English world know of him. And Jimmy befriended him because Jimmy had a place in St. Bart's in the Caribbean, as did Johnny, and they became friends. And Jimmy said it was almost like their careers were mirror images because in the French world, not that many people knew who Jimmy Buffett was, but yet he was famous in the English, and vice versa for Johnny Holiday. But Johnny passed a few years ago, and he's buried on the island of St. Bart's. And Jimmy knew that I had spent time on the island. I was quite familiar with it and with all the early haunts back before it became such a well sought after tourist destination. So I knew like Autour de Rocher and Le Select and JoJo's hamburger joint and all of these places. And he asked me if I'd help write this homage to his friend who had passed away, and he sent me videos of the area and of his gravesite, which is really almost a shrine. There's so many people from France who would visit there just to visit his grave and leave mementos and flowers and so forth. And so Jimmy had asked me to co-write the song. What, Matt came on board, and between the three of us, we wrote this song, Johnny Halliday, or Johnny's Rum for the English version.
That's right.
But because he was such a massive French star, Jimmy encouraged me to do a French version of it, which we did. My partner Patricia and I translated the song, and we put it on our French album, Le Monde de Dissonance. And yeah, it turned out pretty good. It's I hope that people in France get to hear it. You know, they're one of their heroes.
By any chance, did Jimmy Buffett get to hear either the finished or a demo of the French version?
He did get to hear it. He heard both the demo and the finished version, and he really liked it. He had played it for his friends in the bar Select on St. Bart's. He said they liked it, so I'm glad that he got to hear it.
Very cool. And you know, if you look throughout the many records that Jimmy Buffett made, it's not very often that he has a guest vocalist. And you, along with Will Kimbrough on the PEI or Portugal track, get to sing on the record.
Yeah, it was a real honor. He had asked me down to Key West, Margaritaville, there to sing on it just before they were wrapping the thing up in that studio. And we went down, my partner Patricia and I went down and found out that they were holding the studio just for me to sing my parts. I was only going to sing on the choruses, I thought, but then they asked me to sing a verse, which was tremendous, and I sang a verse, and they ended up using it. So that's true. I feel very special, very lucky to have that happen. And it was so much fun we had in the studio that day. I ended up being the very last human to perform, I should say, in the Shrimp Boat Studios down in Key West, right down on the docks there, a little unassuming studio that used to be a shrimp warehouse, I guess, but in the fishing days, and they turned it into a studio because right after I sang, they were going to tear it apart and remodel it. I think they're remodeling it.
Right.
But right after me, Jimmy's daughter's dog came in and barked on it so the dog's bark is on. Why don't you love like my dog? So
Right. Well, I want to go back a bit. It was 21 years now. Jimmy Buffett recorded an absolutely beautiful song that you wrote. It's very atypical, especially then, for something that he would do. I'm talking about Mademoiselle Voulez-vous danser. How did you find out that he had taken a liking to that song and recorded it?
well, I got a phone call from his office saying that he was interested in recording it, and so it came out of left field, and I was very happy to hear that. And we ended up meeting up in Toronto because we were both performing in Toronto around the same time, and he was playing the Molson Center there, and my place was a little more modest, but we got together, had had dinner the night before his show, and he said you should come down and we'll sing the song. So I ended up going down and sitting on a surfboard with him and Mac, and we performed that song live in front of the audience. It was a real thrill.
Lennie, do you have any dreams that have not yet come true that you want to become reality?
Do I have any dreams? Wow. Um, well, I've always wanted to get a book written. I admire Jimmy for finding the time to write a couple of books, several books, and I've always wanted to do something like that. I've got a bunch of projects in my mind. I have a musical that I want to write uh, with a story to it. I have sort of a musical out there now. It's called Searching for Abergweit. Abergweit being the original Mi'kmaq name for Prince Edward Island. And but yeah, I've got a number of creative projects that if I can ever find the time, that I'd love to pursue.
Would you say that you know your ability to write, is it something that you have worked on, like a craft that you've perfected, or would you say it's more of like a something you were born with?
Oh, I think it's something I had to work at. I look back at, I mean, when my very early songs were pretty bad. You know,
Hmm.
uh, but I think by the time I started recording, I still performed some of the songs from my first album. I think by the time I started recording, I was a decent writer, but I think I'm a better writer now. I enjoy the writing of my more recent albums even more, I think, than the
Has,
early stuff.
has anything about your life surprised you?
Lots of things surprise me. uh, I've constantly been surprised. I've performed with artists that I never thought I would have had the chance to perform with. Never in my wildest dreams that I think I'd be sharing a stage and sharing a record with Jimmy Buffett. Um, that's a big surprise. Um, I've been given certain honors in my life that I never dreamed I would receive, and found a beautiful woman that I'm in love with, and that's pretty cool. Um, I have a wonderful kid who's very quite talented. I mean, life is full of surprises. Um, I had one of my albums go up to the International Space Station. That was kind of a shock and kind of a nice surprise. It went up there with Canadian astronaut Jimmy Buffett, and afterwards I got photographs of my album floating in space and planet Earth in the background. That was pretty cool. You know. And I've been fortunate. This community around here has been. Um, I live in a very musical part of the world, the east coast of Canada. And Prince Edward Island, especially, it blows me away. We've got a pretty small population here. It's a pretty small island to be actually one of the provinces of Canada. Less than 200,000 people live here, but it's astounding the number of artists who inhabit this place, and the number of musicians who actually tour the world from this small little population base. It's nuts. Uh, I've looked at little cities who have the same population, and you might find one or two artists or bands that tour, and here I don't know, there's probably 20, 15 to 20 that actually tour on a regular basis. It's pretty crazy.
You've been at this for quite some time now. Lots of performances, lots of records. If you could go back somehow, by some miracle, and tell the young Lennie Gallant, who was first embarking on this career in the world of music, the art of making music, what advice would you give the young Lennie Gallant?
What advice would I give him? um, well, there's probably a lot of things that I would tell him. But one in particular, I would tell him learn how to play piano. I took piano lessons when I was very young, but it didn't go very well, and I didn't keep at it, and I wish I had. I do have a fantastic piano player in my band now. My partner Patricia's son. He's a whiz on the piano. He studied classical music, and he's just been great. But yeah, I wish I had kept that up. A number of other things. Wish I had learned how to read music. I don't actually read music. Strangely enough, I've played a number of shows with symphony orchestras, and I help arrange the songs. And I can see the music when I look at a page. I know where everything is and where it goes. But if you ask me to read the lines individually of it, I would really struggle with that. But playing with symphony orchestras that's magic, man. I've been very fortunate to have quite a few concerts with three different symphonies, and that's been such a blast. And so yeah, I wish I could read music better.
Hmm. Well, we kind of were reunited here because of Jimmy Buffett, and he's sadly no longer with us. Lennie, what does Jimmy Buffett mean to you?
You know, uh, I've met few people in the world who had such a positive outlook on things, and it's phenomenal the following that he has, and they picked up, I think, on his energy and his love of life, and just wanting to accentuate the positive. Our time on this planet is so short. There's no time for darkness and hate and all the things that you see going on in the world right now, and I think his feeling was the best way to combat all that is just be a shining light, and he to spend any time in his presence was pretty special, because when I was with him the last time, he obviously was going through a difficult period. Didn't want to talk about it. Didn't want to focus on it. He was very upbeat. You'd never ever dream he was in a bad way. And this was in April, and not that long before things took a downturn.
Hmm.
He'd been working out in the morning. I find myself trying to be more positive, on a daily basis, and spending some time with him in a way. He had an effect on me like that. And um, yeah, I think he gave a lot of joy to a lot of people when they really needed it, and that means a lot in the world today. And, he it was almost like a religious following or something. The people that follow Jimmy, and for good reason, I think.
That's true. I was doing an interview the other day, a few days ago, with Will Kimbrough, one of your co-writers, and we were kind of reflecting on, you had some just wonderful lines in that song, Mademoiselle. And the one we were kind of focusing on was, these doors and windows open wide. And
Mm.
I have thought of that many, many times through the years. And then the little passage, we all have so little time. And songs like that are a reminder of how important that is. So, Lennie, thank you so much for spending time with us. It's been a great honor and good to see you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate your support, and I hope people check the album out, and I hope they get a chance to check some of my stuff out at lenniegallant.com. That'd be awesome.
Absolutely. And that's LennieGallant.com, LennieGallant.com. Lots of great records to check out there. Any last parting words before we go?
Well, now that you mention it, our most recent video is out on YouTube, and it's for a song called On the Minnehaha. And Buffett fans might recognize it because it's presently getting a ton of play on Radio Margaritaville. And it's a song that I wrote for a friend of mine, a friend of my partner and I, Patricia, Kirsten Newschafer, who won the solo around the world sailing race, probably the most dangerous sailing race in the world. Sailed all the way around the world, no communication. You can only use navigation from before 1967 because that was the year of the first race. And she ended up having to take a day and a half off of her tour to go save one of the sailors whose boat suddenly sank. It's a tremendous thing, and she was up against 16 sailors. She was the only woman in the race, and she won. And I wrote a song about it. And Jimmy was very much into this race with her. When I was in the Key West, I told him about it, and he followed it closely. And because you could do that, every boat had a transponder on it for a satellite, and you could follow the whole race. And it was a tremendous story. And I recently got together with her right here on PEI. We went for a little sail just a couple of weeks ago. She's from South Africa. She had spent a year on PEI getting her boat ready during COVID because she got stuck here by accident. A lot of people helped her out. But anyway, there's a video on YouTube on the Minnehaha, which was the name of her boat, the Minnehaha, and it means the laughing waters. So if maybe people wanted to get a little glimpse of that song, they could check it out on YouTube.
All right. We will provide the link to that, and I'm about to check it out myself.
Oh, cool.
All right, Lennie. Well, thank you so much again, and until next time.
Thank you very much, man. Thanks for the interest.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.
We thank you and appreciate you dropping in for the Paul Leslie Hour today. You know, you can help the Paul Leslie Hour in our mission to provide independent media content like this by visiting www.thepaulleslie.com/support. We truly thank you. This is your announcer speaking. Performance of The Entertainer intro song and Corina Corina outro song, courtesy of John Primorano. Well, that's it for today. So until next time, be safe and be good.